The Justice League of America.
Well, hello, and welcome to Stop, Let's Team Up. Hey, I'm Ross Aiken. Welcome to episode 2. I know I say this was going to be a monthly. Well, guess what? It's going to be more like 3 to 4 times a month. I'm going to try to keep these episodes kind of short, and then because I saw how much fun it was to do just one and to get it out quickly, and I've had some nice comments, and few people have picked it up and listened. Got a really nice mention at the end of the latest episode of Star Rocket Radio, the Infinity Inc. podcast, sister podcast to The World on Fire, an all-star squadron podcast by Billy and Herman. Thank you for the plug, gentlemen, and that's a plug back. I love y'all's podcasts. I am, with you, a true fan of those two books. But I had such a good time, and I think I'm going to do it a little more often. That's all. So I put it out there. What should I do? Give me a single issue story. First person who gives me it, I'm just going to do that one. And Martin Gray of Too Dangerous for a Girl comic book blog, he was first up, and he picked Justice League of America, Volume 1, Episode 10. One of the first, if not the first comic he read. I'm not peeking at Twitter, so I can't remember exactly what he said. All right. Justice League of America, Volume 1, Number 10. Published March 1962. Writer Gardner Fox. Penciler Mike Sekowsky. Inker Bernard Sachs. Editor Julius Schwartz. And the title of the issue is The Fantastic Fingers of Felix Faust. And the roll call is Aquaman, Batman, Flash, Barry Allen, Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Martin Manhunter, Superman, Wonder Woman, and their zany little sidekick, Snapper Carr. All right, this story is Felix Faust. He wants to take over, destroy, rule the world. He's a magician. It's his first appearance. So he summons the 3 demons. And yeah, I'm going to try not to butcher their names so they will not haunt me in the future. Abengazar, Gast, and Wrath. To take control of them, he's going to need the red jar of Kalioth, the green bell of Uthu, and the silver wheel of Nararath to cast a spell to free the demons. The demons and him get together and decide to use the Justice League as their puppets. And if you haven't Googled this and looked up, and it'll be on the when I post this, it's the Felix Faust has took the 9 main characters and made them little finger puppets. It's a great cover. It's one I like a lot. So, as it is Gardner Fox and Silver Golden Age Super Team and very much a Justice League thing, they break up into groups and they go upon their tasks. They collect them, and at the very end, they capture Faust, all wrapped up in a nice bow. But the demons will be free in 100 years. Okay, sounds like a very simple story. And if you have the DC app, go on and read this. It is a joy. Mike Sekowsky had a style. I just know him from this, and there's another book, and it's blanking me. He might have been a Challenger artist. Challenger's the Unknown. My brother, this is more my oldest brother's era of Justice League, and he turned me on to it with the 100-page giants. They'd have a reprint of an old one. Mostly, sometimes it would be the old team-ups with the Justice Society. And even as a kid, growing up on the Dick Dillon Justice League, there is something about Sekowsky's that is just, it's beautiful. It is such a beautiful style of, these are simple action stories for kids. You buy it off, the nostalgia, you buy it off the rack in the newsstand. And I remember with my brother, we'd buy them when we go into a 7-Eleven or a Safeway or something like that and grab comics. Even up into the 80s. I got my last issue of Crisis on Infinite Earth freshman year of college. After a very long party night, one night, I walked into a 7-Eleven to get a hot dog before I went to bed, and there on the stands was the last issue of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Grabbed it, And before I went to bed, I read me a comic book. I miss those days. I miss going into a store and seeing a comic book. I mean, I love going to my local comic book store, Velocity Comics in Richmond, Virginia. Great shop. And I worked in comic shops and ran them and owned one for a short period of time. There's something about that, but there was something about that dime store. And there's a little, when I read this, there's a little nostalgia for that. And I think it's because this run of Justice League, these first 60 or 70 issues are formative of the whole DC super team formula. And I mean, it makes sense that the man who kind of created the super team, Gardner Fox, with the Justice Society of America, it has that flair of those early ones of those by splitting the team up. And their early issues of All-Star Comics with the Justice Society, you would have, the team would come together and they would go off on their individual missions, which would be done by their creators or other creators. But that formula is splitting up the team to spread out the action and mix and match the characters from, you didn't always pair the same people. You would mix it up. So, because the fans I guess they knew the fans like it, or it was just they found it interesting. And even Snapper goes on the missions with them. But it is so well told. It is a language we don't use in comics anymore. And I don't say that as a bad thing. It's just art evolves. And so has the superhero team book. I mean, Gardner Fox creates it. Stan Lee, Roy Thomas get a hold of it, and others. And it grows and grows. And, and you can go through the generations of the greats. I mean, I have a podcast about super teams. So those were the books I liked. And these Gardner Fox, Mike Sekowsky Justice Leagues are just amazing. This one was a joy. And it tied into the next one, Justice League 11. So I went, you know what? I'll talk a little bit about that. Because this one introduces some more characters. And it's not a two-parter, but one plot device moves over into the next issue. And I don't think, and I've read a lot of this era of Justice League, but the first 10 or 11 issues in the Brave and the Bold, it never was a continuing story. I see the hint of that because that has started to become part of Comics In. So the next issue is Justice League of America, Volume 1, number 11, published May 1962. Writer Gardner Fox, penciler Mike Sekowsky, inker Bernard Sachs, editor Julia Schwartz. And the title is 1 Hour to Doomsday. And has the same roll call. I won't call him back off again. And the three, Felix Faust has been defeated, and the demons, they end up battling the Lord of Time in the year 786. And he's raiding time to get weapons. And the League finds themselves trapped in 2062, 100 years later, and the demons are freed from their curse. And they're using their magical powers to bar the Justice League from returning to their own era and take them prisoner by trapping them in the magic bottles that they prepared. And they cast a doomsday spell. And once they're freed they're freed by Green Lantern's powering, and the group realizes the demons use spells with each individual's names in the incantation. So Green Lantern ends up freeing them because they realize that the jars that are containing them are tied to who they are. So Green Lantern makes them look like someone else, and they get out of the jar. Very comic book way out. So they defeat the demons, and then Green Lantern imprisons them in a way that they can only be freed again by the jar, the wheel, and the bell. So, again, just a nice Dick Giordano, Mike Sekowsky Justice League. Really wonderful. It's got the Lord of Time. He became kind of like, I don't really remember reading the issues with him in the later Satellite era books, going toward Crisis, because they brought him back. But he was used a couple times in the 60s. He's a very 60s character, like the red and yellow. He's got the big space helmet. He's like a poor man's Kang. He's very much a poor man's Kang. But again, it's just a simple story. It's all tied up, and it's tied into the other the other issue. So there's this building of continuity, and it's just a wonderful comic. It's on the app, the early Justice League. I would recommend go read the first 2 years of Justice League, 3 years. You'll get to the JLA, JSA crossovers, which was like a great thing that happened at the end of every year in the comics. So those would come out in this late summer because they're always dated September or so. They would come out in like July. And I remember that a lot because those were the issues my brother would always go, here's another team up with Justice Society. So, but it's a great one. And I think this is the full membership at this time. I don't think Hawkman or Adam have joined. The book just looks great. It's great digitally. And it's just worth a read. These are fun books. And that's kind of why I'm doing this, because I want to these do little short episodes just to recommend a good, fun comic. Thanks for recommending it, Martin. I'm a big Silver Age fan, but my memory of it is spotty. The only title I've read straight through Silver Age is Legion of Superheroes. So, but these are great comics, and there's a reason you should like them. This original superhero, this original DC team, the benchmark team, the big team in DC Comics. And I don't want to say that it's lost its luster, but it comes in waves. I think there are runs of Justice League that are amazing and need to be held up and go, this is why this book is still around. And the Gardner Fox Sikowski era is one. The Dick Dillon years is one for me. I would say the Grant Morrison era it was great. I thought he'd be a bit much for it, but that's such a long, good run. I'm enjoying some of the Bendis, but I'm gonna wait until the end with Bendis. I gotta read the whole thing. These are worth a read. These early years of the Justice League, it's well worth a read. I'd like to know what you think. Like to know what you think of the podcast, because I'm just kind of it's baby steps. Early days. So, I want to thank you for listening. So, you can find me on Twitter at JSA4, the number 4E. Or you can find me at my other podcast, Gallifrey's Most Wanted. And Gallifrey's Most Wanted presents The Russell Report, my 2 Doctor Who podcasts with my partners Vic and Jeff. But, I will be back next week with a 3-issue story I'll be back next week with, I'll cover 3 comics that time. The second person to make suggestion was James Sagnella, and he said Avengers 164, 165, and 166. And I was like, yeah, okay, because those are 3 of my favorite comics as a kid ever. I wasn't a kid. I guess I was in high school when they came out, or maybe, I don't know. I'll have, once I see the year, I forget what year it is, maybe 79. I may have been in middle school, but it's great, Avengers, and it really, I feel, underrated era of the book, and 3 of my actually favorite. It's one of my favorite story arcs ever in Avengers. So that's next week. So until then, hey, let's read some comics.